Hi, I'm Steve Robertson. With me here in the studio today of South Coast Television is Peter Charles, a former councillor. He's got some concerns about who it was that paid the cost of sealing the Grosvenor Hotel car park in Victor Harbor.
Team Victor has investigated and found that council administration, without the consent of the elected body, have used ratepayers' funds to seal the private patrons' car park at the Grosvenor Hotel in Victor Harbor at a cost of up to $5,000.
Peter, I'm wondering if you think that the action of the Victor Harbor Council on this matter passes what they laughingly refer to as the pub test.
Look, I don't believe it does, but I'll leave it up to the general public to make their decision and to consider what pub test truly means, right or wrong.
What is your view about ratepayers' funds being used for the bituminization of that private car park at the Grosvenor Hotel?
What really the case is that, and what we're saying at Team Victor, is that this particular task, this sealing of the car park, albeit maybe a good thing to do under some circumstances when it's actually within the scope of the job that was required, it was not. It was something that was an extra to the job that had already been tendered for, and the contractor was the person responsible for any alterations or variations as far as external work's concerned, and consultations with other parties such as owners of shops, lessees of shops, anyone in actual fact that's inconvenienced. Was up to him to make arrangements with them and to cover the cost outside of the contract. You see, the scope of the contract is specific. It's within four walls, if you like, of what has to be done, and if you constantly added more and more to it, it wouldn't be a contract, it wouldn't be an agreement. The agreement is the agreement, and I was trying to say to the Mayor, or to develop another question and to go to a question with her, and she refused and said, look, you're debating. And I said, okay. It was easier just to sort of let it go and to have some sort of harmony and go to the next question. I've had plenty of debates with the Mayor, and I generally come off second best. In fact, everybody does.
Let's now have a look at some vision that was taken at the Victor Harbor Council meeting on the 24th of January of this year. Former Councillor Peter Charles, with me here in the studio, appeared before the Council to pose questions about this issue we've been discussing, the sealing of the Grosvenor Hotel car park.
Okay, I will say it's on behalf of Team Victor and the community. Is it correct that at the Council meeting, the majority of elected members approved the spending of community capital to prepare and bituminise the private car park of the Grosvenor Hotel Victor Harbor? Will you please supply, if this is the case, the date of the Council meeting and the agenda item number when the variation to the scope of the Coral Street contract was presented to Council for debate?
As with all of our local tender processes on the Main Street precinct, it's clearly articulated in the documentation that any detours required to be put in place during the construction of each stage were the responsibility of the successful contractor to negotiate with the relevant owners and engage in private arrangements for this to occur. The cost of these arrangements, including any variations, are included in the project overhead / preliminaries and become part of the construction contract for which Council is responsible for payment. Any agreements or arrangements made in relation to the works undertaken are between the contractor and the owners or the lessees of the land, not Council. All elected members were briefed on Main Street Stage 3 project during the planning, construction and the implementation stages of the project. Elected members are not directly involved in the operational component of Council projects unless they require a substantial deviation from the project plan or a significant budget variation. As with any project of Council, the CEO is required to be aware and have oversight of their management. In regards to this particular matter, it was brought to the attention of the CEO by the lessor of the property following challenges he was experiencing with a former staff member over the significant delay and the interruptions he was experiencing to his business as a result of site works. There was an agreement between the contractor and the Grosvenor Hotel lessor for traffic to be diverted through the hotel car park while the railway terrace threshold was constructed. It was anticipated that the use of this area would be for approximately 2 weeks. As compensation for the use of the car park, the contractor agreed to prepare the site to a standard that was ready for asphalt. During the 2 weeks, I believe there was a number of delays which resulted in the initial 2 weeks exceeding well beyond that particular time frame. And due to extended use of the car park area, the contractor made further arrangements with the Grosvenor Hotel lessor to asphalt the area following completion of their use. This was approved as a variation to the contract at a cost of less than $5,000.
Thank you. That actually provides more questions than it does answers to me. Industry sources say that when you have a contract and the scope is set, then, and we've done some research on this, that the scope, this car park was not within the scope, therefore it was not a variation to the contract, because the contract did not include the car park.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Charles. This isn't a debate.
Okay, that's fine.
You have another question?
Yes, I'd like to know whether that reply you've just given will be in the minutes, or I can have a copy of it, please.
It won't be in the minutes.
It won't be in the minutes?
Unless it's moved.
So we won't know who the member of staff was, or whether they work for the council or someone else?
It won't be in the minutes,
Okay.
Councillor Charles, unless it's
All right, my
in the
second
minutes.
question. It's a finite community capital has been spent bituminising a hoteliers private car park. Do you, personally, or any elected members believe the use of this community capital was appropriate in the community's interest?
I think I've answered that with the first question, Councillor Charles.
You haven't said whether it's in the community interest.
Councillor Charles, I've answered that in the first question. I'm not giving you any personal view, and that's your answer. The answers
Thank
that
you very
have
much.
received. Thank you.
Peter, I'm wondering what your views are about what the mayor has said on that piece of vision there, particularly what seems to be her reluctance to have these matters printed.
I was, and Team Victor, a couple of us, Terry and myself, were party to the information that was passed on from the CEO to South Coast Television, and it was really just a plagiarism of the story that had been told there in an email to South Coast Television. So I'd heard all the words before, there was no change, and what actually was said by the mayor was, as I said in council, was opened up more questions than it provided answers. Look, it was an answer. We can't argue that she didn't move her lips, but the truth of the matter is that the question was not answered, nor was my second question. I asked a couple times. Yes, I believe that the series of questions I asked caused reasonable and serious embarrassment to the council, to the administration. There was a reluctance, a very strong reluctance to see the information in the minutes. I think I might have taken the mayor by surprise to even ask the question, but I wanted to be assured that they would be in the minutes and that they would be recorded for posterity's sake, and for later reference for anybody who wants to look at the council agenda and the minutes of that meeting. The mayor was only too pleased to try and discount the opportunity or the possibility of the questions and answers being put in the minutes. But those people serve and deserve to know that the way things should be was that these sort of things, questions from the gallery, are always printed in the minutes, and the answers also. These are generally very important issues that people bring forward, or if they're not super important, they're important to the people who ask the questions, and that naturally, if it applies to one person who asks the questions, then it no doubt applies to other people in the community as well who want to know the answers. So this has been misleading to the public. The public in general don't know a thing about it, of course, but the people who watch on live stream, the people who are in the gallery, they were party to what was said, and I'm here now correcting that the minutes did contain the information which is now there for posterity, and that's a good thing.
Do you and Team Victor have any thoughts about taking this to what might be considered higher authority, like say the Minister for Local Government?
Yes, I think that it will probably end up going in the hands of whoever that may be, because we're sitting on an election at present moment, and we'll know that in due course. I'm sure they'll be flooded with plenty of things to deal with as they take their seat behind the desk. But there are other places it needs to go, because I think that we don't really get much of a response out of the usual ones that we're recommended to go and complain to. I think that's probably a safe complaint as far as some people are concerned.
So where to next in that case if that doesn't look very effective?
Upwards and onwards. I don't really know what to say. I'm not going to telegraph on this exactly where it's going to go, but it's going to go. It won't go quietly.
South Coast Television, your community, your voice.